Raining Robots.
Raining Robots. That's
you got it. Raining Robots from the Sky. That's the book you guys sent in. And honestly, the title alone had me hooked. I mean, come on, I can't resist that kind of sci-fi goodness. How does this whole robot rainstorm thing actually kick off?
The story starts with Sarah, our main character, just living her life in small-town Maine, doing laundry, enjoying the sunshine, the usual, and then bam, everything changes.
Talk about bad timing. No more sunny days for Sarah, huh?
Not exactly. Ranganathan doesn't hold back on the imagery here. He describes this ominous green sky, this immediate sense that something's off, like nature itself is glitching out. It's seriously unsettling even before the first robot actually falls.
Okay, now that's just creepy. So we've got this ominous green sky, and then...
Then chaos. Robots start falling from the sky. One minute, Sarah's hanging laundry. The next, she's hiding behind an old oak tree, watching these metal beings plummet to Earth. And that's what makes it so effective. It's not some distant, abstract alien invasion. It's happening in Sarah's backyard, in a place that feels real and familiar. Her fear, her confusion, it's all incredibly relatable.
It's like that instant feeling of, this can't be happening, but it is.
Totally. And Ranganathan does this brilliant thing where he grounds the story in Sarah's experience, in those small everyday moments that get completely upended. By rooting it in this familiar setting, he makes the sheer scale of the invasion even more terrifying. We're not just reading about global chaos, we're experiencing it right alongside Sarah, someone who can easily be us.
Okay, so we've got Sarah dealing with metal rain in her backyard. Where does this global panic take us next?
Well, the story quickly shifts from Sarah's backyard to Sheriff Dan's office. And let me tell you, things get real intense, real fast. The radio chatter is nonstop reports of robot attacks, people trapped, just pure chaos. There's this one line from a deputy that sends chills down my spine every time I read it. They're killing people, tearing them apart with their bare hands.
Whoa. Okay, so we're not dealing with your friendly neighborhood robots here.
Not even close. And this is where Ranganathan taps into a primal fear we have about technology, especially artificial intelligence. It's not just that these robots are crazy advanced. It's that they seem to completely lack empathy. Like they have zero understanding or even awareness of the human cost of their actions.
It's like they've become this blank slate that we project our worst fears onto, that fear of the unknown, of losing control, of being utterly insignificant compared to a force that doesn't even recognize our existence.
Exactly. We don't know where they came from, why they're here, what they want. They just are. And they're wreaking havoc. It's terrifying.
It's like that nightmare where you're running from something, but you don't know what it is or why it's chasing you. Pure instinct.
Right. It's all about survival at that point.
Yeah.
And just when you think it can't possibly get any worse, Ranganathan zeroes in on Millbrook High, where we discover that Sheriff Dan's daughter, Lily, is trapped inside.
Oh, no. Talk about a parent's worst nightmare.
And he uses this classic thriller technique, the ticking clock, but with a twist. We have Sheriff Dan, the guy who's supposed to be the protector, suddenly receiving this heart-wrenching text from Lily. Dad, they're at the high school. Please help. Talk about raising the stakes.
It's no longer some abstract global crisis. It's personal. It's about survival, about protecting your own flesh and blood. And the fact that it's happening at the high school, a place that's supposed to be safe, that just amplifies the terror tenfold.
Exactly. The high school becomes this microcosm of the larger crisis, this pressure cooker of human emotion. We see fear, obviously, but also courage, ingenuity, this desperate will to survive.
So with the robots closing in on the high school, who are the key players we meet as things start to really heat up?
Well, first, we've got Mr. Patel, the chemistry teacher. In a moment of pure desperation, he tries to whip up some robot melting acid. It's actually kind of hilarious and terrifying at the same time.
That's some serious ingenuity under pressure. Thinking on your feet, Mr. Patel.
Right. And it shows this incredible human capacity for innovation, even when facing the impossible. It's a small flicker of hope in this really dark situation. Then we have Lily and Jake, two ordinary teenagers, suddenly thrown into this extraordinary, terrifying situation.
They're not superheroes or trained soldiers or anything, right? They're just kids trying to make sense of this whole robot invasion thing.
Exactly. And the way they escape their classroom, their quick thinking, it really highlights that resilience of the human spirit, especially in young people. They adapt fast, they support each other, and they refuse to give up. Pretty inspiring, actually.
It's that whole we've got this attitude, even when they probably have no idea what this even is.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's Dan. Talk about a dilemma torn between his duty as sheriff, trying to maintain some semblance of order, and that desperate, primal urge to protect his daughter.
Ugh, yeah. That's heavy stuff to be that conflicted. In that kind of situation, it's unimaginable.
It speaks volumes about the power of human connection, even when the world's literally falling apart around you. And it brings up a question that I think we'll keep coming back to throughout this whole story. What are we willing to sacrifice for the people we love?
So many questions already, and we're just getting started. But before we dive into the next part of our deep dive, what stands out to you most about this initial setup?
Honestly, it's how Ranganathan so seamlessly blends these massive apocalyptic events with these really intimate character-driven moments. I mean, we're talking robots falling from the sky here. But the real heart of the story, the thing that really sucks you in, is the human element. Those small acts of courage and resilience that offer a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos.
It's like even in a world increasingly obsessed with AI and technology, it's the human stories that truly captivate us. Last time we left things pretty dire in Millbrook. Robots running rampant, our main characters stuck searching for any way to fight back against this robot invasion.
Yeah.
It did not look good.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. But right in the middle of all that chaos, Ranganathan introduces this little spark of hope, Remember when Lily notices how the robots are moving, how it's just too synchronized, too organized to be random?
Oh, yeah, like they're all doing some kind of choreographed robot dance.
Exactly. And it's like a light bulb goes off in her head. In all that panic, she manages to hold on to that analytical thinking, that search for a pattern. And that right there, that becomes a major turning point in the story.
Because it leads them to the radio tower.
Bingo. The radio tower becomes this beacon of hope, this symbol of maybe, just maybe, having a chance to disrupt whatever is controlling those robots.
But it's also crazy dangerous, right? Because if the humans are thinking that, then the robots or whatever is controlling them, they got to be thinking the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. It becomes this huge gamble, this race against time to reach the tower and, hopefully not get turned into scrap metal in the process.
Yeah.
But here's where Ranganathan really flips the script on us. Remember how Lily and Jake end up being decoys, essentially? Drawing the robots away from the others so they can get to the tower?
Talk about brave. I mean, they're teenagers. What would I do if I saw a giant robot coming at me? Run, that's what I do.
Right. But they face their fear head on. And it's not just about being brave, it's about being resourceful. They have to think on their feet, make split-second decisions, all while trying to avoid becoming robot roadkill. It's a testament to that human ability to adapt, to find strength in the face of overwhelming odds. And what's really cool is how Ranganathan uses this to challenge our ideas about heroism. We usually think of heroes as soldiers or superheroes, but here, it's these ordinary kids thrust into extraordinary circumstances.
Okay, so while Lily and Jake are playing a high-stakes game of robot tag, what's happening with the others? Did they manage to make it to the tower?
We do, but that's where things get even more interesting. Inside the tower, it's like a whole other level of tension. Remember Mr. Patel, the chemistry teacher who was trying to dissolve robots with acid earlier?
How could I forget?
Well, his scientific knowledge. That becomes absolutely crucial in trying to understand the tech behind this whole robot invasion.
You're kidding. So it wasn't just a crazy, desperate idea. There was actually some logic behind that whole acid thing.
Maybe not in the way he initially thought, but it's this great example of how diverse skills become important in a crisis. We often think of heroes as these physically strong, brave figures. But here, it's Mr. Patel's intellect, his understanding of science that might actually save the day.
It's like that saying, knowledge is power. Or in this case, knowledge might just save humanity from a robot apocalypse. So what's going on inside the tower? Are they making any progress?
Okay, so picture this. Ranganathan describes the tower interior, and it's giving total alien tech vibes, humming machinery, these cryptic symbols flashing on control panels. It's clear they're dealing with something way beyond anything they've ever seen.
And I bet it's intimidating as hell. Like, how do you even begin to understand something that seems so advanced, so alien?
Right. It definitely taps into that primal fear of the unknown. But even when faced with this advanced technology, Mr. Patel, bless his heart, he doesn't give up. He starts tinkering, analyzing, looking for any weakness, any way to fight back. It's inspiring.
So what happens? Does he find a way to, turn the robots off or something?
It's more complicated than that. Just as it seems like all hope is lost, Mr. Patel has this breakthrough. He figures out a way to potentially disrupt the signal controlling the robots. But as he tries to take control, things take a turn. It's like the robots or whatever's controlling them, they sense it, They start actively fighting back against his attempts.
Oh, no. So it's not just robots following a program anymore. They're like learning, adapting.
Exactly. And that's when it gets really creepy. If this alien tech can learn, evolve in real time, what chance do we have?
That's a terrifying thought. Like, even if they stop this attack, who's to say they won't come back even stronger?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's one that Ranganathan wants us to sit with. He doesn't just want to tell a thrilling action story. He wants us to consider the bigger implications, the potential consequences of our actions when it comes to AI.
So what happens next? What do they do with this learning, adapting robot army?
Just as this colossal robot, the one that's been tearing up the town, is about to strike its final blow, Mr. Patel manages to activate some kind of EMP blast.
The EMP, that's risky. That could backfire big time.
Oh, definitely. But at that moment, it's their only shot. Time's running out, the fate of Millbrook hanging by a thread. Ranganathan's description of that blast is intense, this wave of energy shutting down every single robot in its path.
It worked. The robots are down, so everyone's safe. Time to celebrate.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But this is where Ranganathan throws in another curveball. Because even though they've neutralized the immediate threat, there's this lingering feeling of unease. It's the silence after the blast, that eerie stillness where the gravity of what they've done really hits home.
They won, but at what cost?
That's the million-dollar question that takes us into the final part of Raining Robots.
So the robots are toast, officially scrap metal scattered all over Millbrook. You'd think everyone would be breathing a sigh of relief, popping champagne, celebrating.
You'd think so, but it's not quite like that.
No. What's the vibe like?
It's more like, imagine a really bad storm just passed through you. The worst of it is over, but the air is still heavy, You're looking around at the damage, still feeling that nervous energy, wondering what just happened.
Intense. So it's less party time and more processing time for the people of Millbrook.
Exactly. Ranganathan really nails that feeling of aftermath, that uneasy sense of, okay, now what? He could have just wrapped things up at a happy ending, everyone's safe, robots are gone, the end. But that's not what happens.
Thank goodness for that. Because a nice, neat ending wouldn't really be realistic, would it?
Not at all. Instead, he slows things down and focuses on what everyone's going through emotionally after this insane event. It's like the adrenaline is worn off and the true weight of everything is just starting to hit them.
That makes sense. Trauma doesn't just disappear overnight, right?
Right. And one way Ranganathan gets this across is through descriptions of the sky. Remember how before the robot invasion, the sky was this ominous green?
Oh, yeah. Creepy green sky. Definitely not a good sign.
Well, after the EMP blast, that green haze clears. Lily looks up, and for the first time in what feels like forever, she can see the stars again.
Okay, so the bad stuff is gone. The sky's back to normal. I mean, that's got to be a good thing, right? A sign that everything's going back to how it was.
Kind of, but it's not that simple. See, before the robots, the stars represented something beautiful, something vast and eternal. But now, they take on this whole new meaning. They're like a reminder that humanity is just this tiny blip in a huge, chaotic universe.
So instead of feeling comforted by the stars, now they're just a reminder of how small and vulnerable they really are.
Exactly. And to make things worse, they still don't have answers to the big questions, Where did these robots come from? Why did they attack? And the biggest one of all, are they really gone for good?
Talk about unsettling. It's like that feeling when you wake up from a nightmare and you're relieved it's over, but you can't shake that lingering sense of dread.
That's a perfect way to put it. And just when you're really starting to feel that dread creeping in, you hit the final line of the excerpt and it's just chilling.
Oh man, I think I know what's coming. Hit me with it. What's the line?
Ready for this? Humanity now knew it was not alone.
Man, that's heavy. And not exactly the comforting reassurance you'd want after a robot apocalypse, is it?
Not at all. And that's the brilliance of it. Instead of giving us a neat, tidy ending, Ranganathan leaves us with a sense of unsettling wonder. The world and our place in it suddenly feels a whole lot bigger, more complex, and definitely more dangerous. And what I really appreciate is how he doesn't try to spoon-feed us any answers. He doesn't need to. He's given us something even better a space to confront our own fears about the future, about technology, and that vast unknown that's always looming out there.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the biggest takeaway is this. Raining robots from the sky is about way more than just robots, right?
Oh, for sure. It's about what it means to be human, especially in a world where the line between science fiction and reality seems to get blurrier every day.
What would you do if you were in Sarah's shoes or Dan's? How do you even begin to rebuild after something like that? It's a lot to think about, and that's what makes this book and this conversation so powerful. Ranganathan isn't just telling us a story. He's inviting us to question, to explore, and to imagine. So keep those questions coming and keep exploring.